The sun was setting on a quiet Sunday evening when Ashley sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by paperwork and her laptop's soft glow. At 25, she had finally saved enough for a down payment on her dream home, a modest two-bedroom house with a small garden. All she needed now was to access her college fund to make it happen. Her hands trembled slightly as she logged into her bank account. The excitement of potentially owning her first home made her heart race. She had been planning this moment for months, carefully budgeting every penny of her software engineer salary. The college fund, lovingly built by her grandmother over 20 years, would be the final piece of the puzzle. But something wasn't right. Ashley blinked hard and refreshed the page, thinking it must be a glitch. The account that should have shown nearly $100,000 displayed a balance of just $47.50. She felt her stomach drop as if she'd missed a step going downstairs. "This can't be right," she whispered to herself, quickly dialing the bank's customer service number. After 20 minutes of verification questions and being put on hold, the representative confirmed her worst fear. The money had indeed been withdrawn 6 months ago. But I never withdrew anything," Ashley stammered, her voice shaking. The representative explained that the withdrawal had been made by her mother, Patricia, who was also listed on the account as a trustee. Ashley's mind raced back to all the recent family gatherings. Her mother had been acting strange, avoiding conversations about money or future plans. Her younger brother Ryan had suddenly started a new business venture, moving into a fancy office space and driving a brand new car. At the time, Ashley had assumed he'd gotten investors. With her hands still shaking, now from a mixture of fear and anger, she called her mother. Each ring felt like an eternity until finally, Patricia's cheerful voice answered, "Hi, sweetie. How's the house hunting going?" The casual tone in her mother's voice made Ashley's blood run cold. "Mom," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "I just checked my college fund account. Where's the money?" The silence that followed seemed to stretch for hours. Honey," Patricia finally spoke, her voice taking on that familiar defensive tone Ashley had heard so many times when her brother was in trouble. "I meant to talk to you about that. You see, Ryan had this amazing business opportunity, and he needed capital right away." Ashley felt the room spin. The fund her grandmother had started when she was just a baby, adding to it every birthday and Christmas, was gone. The money meant for her education and future had been handed to her brother without anyone even telling her. "That wasn't your money to give away," Ashley said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Grandma left that for me. She told me about it before she passed away. She wanted me to use it for college or my first home." "Now, don't be selfish," Patricia replied, her tone growing stern. "Ryan needed it more than you do. You already have a good job. He's starting a business. This could be his big break. You know how talented your brother is." Memories flooded back, years of watching Ryan get second, third, and fourth chances while she worked hard to be perfect. Every A+ she brought home was met with a distracted "that's nice, dear," while Ryan's C grades were celebrated because at least he tried his best. "Mom, I'm coming over," Ashley said firmly. "We need to talk about this in person, and I want to see the paperwork for the withdrawal." "Oh, honey, tonight's not good," Patricia quickly responded. "Ryan's coming over to show me his business presentations. Maybe we can talk next weekend." Ashley felt her chest tighten. Even now, Ryan was the priority. "No, Mom, I'm coming over now. This can't wait." As she grabbed her car keys, Ashley's phone buzzed with a text from her best friend. "Hey, did you find your dream house yet?" She stared at the message, tears finally spilling onto her cheeks. How could she explain that her own mother had given away her future? That once again, her brother's dreams were deemed more important than hers. The setting sun cast long shadows across her apartment as Ashley grabbed her grandmother's old photo from the bookshelf. In it, they were both smiling, her grandmother's arms wrapped tightly around 8-year-old Ashley as they sat in the garden. "I'll fix this, Grandma," she whispered, gently touching the photo. "I promise." The drive to her mother's house felt surreal, streetlights blurring through her tears. She had always been the responsible one, the one who did everything right. But maybe that was the problem. They had taken her stability for granted, assuming she would be fine while they poured everything into her brother's latest scheme. As she pulled into her mother's driveway, she saw Ryan's new car parked out front, its expensive silver paint gleaming under the porch light. The sight of it made her stomach turn. That car probably cost a chunk of her college fund, money her grandmother had saved for 20 years, one small deposit at a time. Ashley took a deep breath, wiped her eyes, and stepped out of her car. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about respect, about family, about right and wrong. And for once, she wasn't going to let them brush her feelings aside. She walked to the front door, her steps firm and determined. The time for being the quiet, understanding daughter was over. She needed answers, and she needed them now. As Ashley sat in her mother's living room that evening, old memories flooded back, each one stinging like salt in a fresh wound. The walls were covered with Ryan's photos, his high school graduation, his college acceptance, though he dropped out after one semester, and his various business ventures. Her own achievements were tucked away in a small corner, almost like an afterthought. Remember when Ryan won the participation trophy in Little League? Patricia was saying, gesturing to yet another framed photo. Even then, we knew he was special. He just sees the world differently. Ashley fought the urge to roll her eyes. She remembered that day clearly. She had won first place in the state science fair the same weekend, but no one had attended because Ryan's participation trophy ceremony couldn't be missed. "Mom," Ashley interrupted, her voice firm but controlled. "We need to talk about the money, not about Ryan's childhood achievements." Patricia's smile faltered slightly. She smoothed her skirt, a nervous habit Ashley knew well. "Honey, you have to understand. Ryan's business plan is revolutionary. He's going to change the whole pet fashion industry." The words hit Ashley like a punch to the gut. Pet fashion. Her college fund, her future, had been gambled away on pet fashion. "Let me show you his track record," Ashley said quietly, pulling out her tablet. She had prepared for this conversation during the drive over. Age 18, Ryan's music production studio. You gave him $15,000 from your savings. It lasted 3 months before he got bored. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't ready then. He's matured so much. Age 20. Ashley continued, her voice steady. The food truck business. Dad took out a second mortgage. The truck was sold at a loss after 6 months because Ryan decided he didn't like working weekends. The living room fell silent except for the quiet ticking of the grandfather clock. Another family heirloom that would probably be sold to fund Ryan's next big idea. Age 22. The cryptocurrency investment scheme. Aunt Linda's retirement savings. Age 23. The premium coffee shop that never opened. Uncle Bob's boat money. Ashley looked up from her tablet. "And now, at 24, you gave him my college fund. The money Grandma saved for me." Patricia stood up abruptly, walking to the mantel where Ryan's photos dominated. "You don't understand. Your brother is a visionary. Sometimes it takes a few tries to find the right opportunity. And this time, it's different. The pet fashion industry is booming." Ashley thought about her own journey, working part-time jobs through high school, maintaining a perfect GPA for scholarships, taking extra coding classes on weekends while Ryan slept in. She had earned her success through years of hard work, not vision. "Did you even read Grandma's trust documents?" Ashley asked, pulling out a worn envelope. "The ones where she specifically wrote that this money was for my education and future." Patricia's face flushed. "I'm your mother. I know what's best for both my children. Ryan needed this chance." "And what about my chance?" Ashley's voice cracked slightly. "My chance to buy a home, to start my own life? Did you think about that at all?" The front door opened and Ryan strolled in, designer sunglasses perched on his head despite the evening hour. "Hey, what's everyone doing here?" "Mom, did you see the new promotional materials for Posh Fashion? They're amazing." He stopped short, finally reading the room's tension. "Oh, Ashley, I didn't know you were coming over." Ashley turned to face her brother, really looking at him for the first time in months. His expensive watch, the branded clothes, the confident swagger of someone who had never faced consequences, all probably paid for with her money. "Ryan," she said calmly, "how's the business going?" "Really going, I mean. Can I see the books?" His easy smile faltered for a moment. "The books? Come on, sis, you know startup finances are complicated." We're in the growth phase right now, focusing on brand awareness and market penetration. In other words, Ashley interrupted, you're losing money. My money. Ryan's face hardened. Look, I know you're upset, but this is business. Sometimes you have to take big risks for big rewards. Mom understood that. That's why she invested in me. Invested? Ashley stood up, her hands shaking. It wasn't her investment to make. That was my college fund. Grandma saved that money for 20 years, birthday by birthday, Christmas by Christmas. She worked extra shifts at the hospital to build that fund. Oh, please, Ryan scoffed. You already have a job. A boring, safe little job writing computer code. I'm trying to build something here. Create jobs, make a real difference. Patricia stepped between them. Children, please, we're family. We need to support each other. Ashley, your brother has a real chance at success this time. Don't you want him to succeed? Ashley looked at her mother's pleading face, then at her brother's defensive stance. The same old pattern, playing out again. Ryan takes, the family enables, and Ashley is expected to understand. To sacrifice. To smile and support the golden child. You know what success looks like, Mom. Ashley's voice was quiet but clear. Success looks like working hard, like being responsible, like respecting other people's money and dreams. She picked up her grandmother's photo from the side table. Success isn't stealing your sister's future and calling it business. The room fell silent. Even the grandfather clock seemed to hold its breath. I'm going to fix this, Ashley said, gathering her things. Not for you, Ryan, and not for you, Mom, but for Grandma, who believed in me enough to save this money, who trusted you to protect it for me. As she walked to the door, Ryan called out, Come on, sis. Don't be like this. Once posh fashion takes off, I'll pay you back double. Ashley turned one last time, looking at her family, her mother wringing her hands, her brother with his practiced charm, the wall of photos celebrating every moment of his life while minimizing hers. No, Ryan, she said softly. This time, you're going to learn what responsibility really means. Both of you are. 3 days after the confrontation at her mother's house, Ashley found herself setting the table for what would become the most intense family dinner of her life. Her hands shook slightly as she placed the last fork, her grandmother's old china catching the light from above. She had invited everyone, her mother, Ryan, Aunt Kate, and Uncle David. It was time for the whole family to know the truth. The doorbell rang at exactly 6:30. Aunt Kate arrived first, bringing her famous apple pie and a warm hug. You sounded serious on the phone, sweetie, she said, studying Ashley's face with concern. Is everything okay? Before Ashley could answer, Uncle David walked in, followed by Patricia and Ryan. The tension in the room immediately thickened. Ryan was wearing another expensive new outfit, and Ashley couldn't help wondering if her college fund had paid for that too. Well, this is nice, Patricia said brightly, trying to break the awkward silence. It's been so long since we've all had dinner together. And Ashley, honey, you've set the table with Mom's china. Yes, Ashley replied quietly. Grandma's china. She left it to me in her will. At least that couldn't be given away to Ryan. The room fell silent. Aunt Kate's eyes narrowed as she looked between Ashley and Patricia. What does that mean? Ashley took a deep breath. Why don't we all sit down? There's something we need to discuss. As everyone settled around the table, Ashley pulled out a folder she'd prepared. Inside were bank statements, trust documents, and her grandmother's original letter about the college fund. Her hands were steady now. She had practiced this moment countless times. 6 months ago, she began, her voice clear and controlled, Mom gave away my entire college fund to Ryan. The fund Grandma spent 20 years building for me. Almost $100,000, gone without even telling me. Aunt Kate's fork clattered against her plate. Patricia, you did what? Now, Kate, Patricia started, her voice taking on that familiar defensive tone. As their mother, I had to make a decision that was best for both my children. Ryan's business needed. Stop. Uncle David's voice cut through the room like a knife. Just stop right there, Patricia. That money wasn't yours to give. Your mother, my sister, set up that fund specifically for Ashley. We all knew about it. We all contributed to it. Ryan shifted uncomfortably in his expensive chair. Look, everyone needs to calm down. This is just a temporary investment. Once posh fashion takes off. Posh fashion? Aunt Kate interrupted, her face reddening. You spent Ashley's college fund on pet clothes. Ashley pulled out more papers from her folder. I did some research. The business is already failing. Ryan spent most of the money on office space, designer furniture, and business expenses like his new car and wardrobe. There's less than $30,000 left in the business account. The color drained from Patricia's face. Ryan, is this true? For once, Ryan's smooth charm faltered. The business world is complicated, he mumbled. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. I have the original trust documents right here, Ashley continued, her voice growing stronger. Grandma's signature, her specific instructions, everything. Mom, you had no legal right to transfer that money. You were a trustee, not an owner. Uncle David picked up the documents, his hands trembling with anger. Patricia, do you realize what you've done? This isn't just morally wrong, it's legally wrong. You violated a trust agreement. I was trying to be fair to both my children. Patricia burst out. Ashley has a good job, she's doing fine. Ryan needed this chance. Fair? Ashley's voice cracked. Was it fair when you missed my college graduation because Ryan had a hangover and needed you? Was it fair when you sold my car, that I bought with my own money, to pay for Ryan's failed music studio? Was it fair when you gave away the money Grandma saved for me? Tears were flowing freely now, but Ashley didn't care. Years of pent-up hurt and frustration poured out. Do you know what Grandma told me before she died? She said she started this fund because she saw something in me, responsibility, dedication, drive. She wanted to make sure I could chase my dreams without drowning in debt. She trusted you to protect that dream, Mom. The room fell silent except for the quiet sobs coming from both Ashley and Patricia. Even Ryan looked shaken, the reality of what he participated in finally seeming to sink in. Aunt Kate reached across the table and grabbed Ashley's hand. What do you want to do, sweetheart? Whatever you decide, Uncle David and I will support you. Ashley pulled out one final document from her folder. I've already talked to a lawyer. The trust agreement was ironclad. What Mom and Ryan did was illegal. She turned to face them directly. I'm giving you both one chance to make this right. We can handle this as a family, with a repayment plan and consequences, or we can handle it in court. Your choice. Patricia's face crumpled. Ashley, please, we're family. Yes, we are, Ashley replied firmly. And it's time this family learned what that really means. It means respect. It means responsibility. It means facing consequences when you hurt people, even people you love. She stood up, still holding her grandmother's trust documents. You have until the end of the week to decide. Either way, I'm getting my future back. The china plates sat untouched, dinner forgotten in the weight of the moment. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the dining room table, the same table where her grandmother had once sat, planning and dreaming of her granddaughter's future. Ashley silently promised her that those dreams wouldn't be wasted, no matter what it took. A week after the family dinner, Ashley stood in front of a glass office building, gathering her courage. The sleek sign reading "Posh Fashion, Luxury Pet Wear" seemed to mock her. This was where her college fund had gone to die. She'd spent the last few days doing her homework. As a software engineer, she knew how to follow digital breadcrumbs. Every business registration, every tax filing, every expense report, she'd tracked them all down. What she found made her sick to her stomach. The security guard barely glanced at her as she walked in. I'm here to see Ryan Thompson, she said firmly. The guard waved her toward the elevator, and she pressed the button for the 5th floor, the most expensive floor in the building, of course. The office space was exactly what she'd expected. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her car. Giant windows with a city view. A fancy coffee machine that looked like it belonged in a space station, and right in the middle of it all, her brother was lounging in an ergonomic chair that she knew cost thousands. Ashley, Ryan's surprise seemed genuine. What are you doing here? If this is about the dinner the other night. Show me the books, Ashley interrupted, dropping her laptop bag on his designer desk. All of them, now. Ryan's easy smile faltered. Come on, sis, you know I can't just. Actually, you can, and you will. Ashley pulled out a document. As someone whose money was illegally invested in this business, I have every right to see exactly how it was spent. My lawyer confirmed it this morning. The color drained from Ryan's face. Behind him, through the glass walls of his office, she could see two employees playing ping pong on an expensive table. Another was napping on a designer couch. Fine, Ryan muttered, pulling up files on his computer. But you have to understand, we're in a growth phase. Sometimes the numbers look a little. 70%, Ashley cut in. You've lost 70% of my money in 6 months. And I can see exactly where it went. She opened her laptop, pulling up her own spreadsheet. Let's break it down, shall we? First, this office. Premium space, premium rent. Then the furniture, all custom-made. A ping-pong table? Really? Oh, and let's not forget your new car, your designer wardrobe, and your business trips to Miami and Las Vegas. Those were networking opportunities, Ryan protested. Right, that's why all your social media posts from those trips show you partying on yachts. Ashley scrolled through more numbers. You've sold exactly 12 pet outfits in 6 months. 12. And 3 of those were to Mom. Ryan slumped in his expensive chair. For the first time, he looked less like the confident golden child and more like a scared kid who'd gotten in way over his head. The investors, he started. What investors? Ashley laughed bitterly. I'm your only investor, Ryan. And I never agreed to invest. The money was stolen from me. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. Do you know what I was going to do with that money? I had it all planned out. A down payment on a small house. Maybe start my own tech consulting business on the side. Real plans, Ryan, not fantasies. My business isn't a fantasy. Ryan shut back, but his voice lacked conviction. The pet fashion industry is worth billions. Yes, it is. To companies that actually make and sell products. Ashley turned back to face him. You've spent 6 months playing businessman, buying expensive things to look successful instead of doing the work to become successful. She pulled up another document on her laptop. Here's your company credit card statement from last month. $3,000 at high-end restaurants, $5,000 on office decorations, $2,000 on, wait for it, a professional photo shoot of you posing with random dogs in your pet clothes. Ryan's face flushed. Image is important in this industry. No, Ryan, products are important. Sales are important. Actually, running a business is important. Ashley's voice softened slightly. Did you ever really want to do this, or did you just want to play at being a CEO? The silence that followed was deafening. Outside the office, the ping-pong gang had stopped. The napping employee had woken up and was pretending not to listen. I thought it would be easier, Ryan finally admitted, his voice small. Everyone always said I was special, that I had potential. Mom always said. Mom did you no favors, Ashley interrupted gently. Neither did Dad, or anyone else who kept cleaning up your messes. They made you think you were entitled to success without earning it. She turned her laptop around, showing him the final numbers. You have 3 weeks of runway left at your current spending rate. After that, the money's gone. All of it, my entire college fund, destroyed. Ryan stared at the numbers, reality finally seeming to sink in. I didn't mean for this to happen. I really thought. I know, Ashley said quietly. You never mean for it to happen. But it keeps happening, Ryan. And this time, you didn't just waste Mom and Dad's money. You took my future, my dreams. She packed up her laptop, every movement deliberate and controlled. I'm sending copies of all these records to my lawyer. You have until the end of the week to come up with a repayment plan. After that, we do this the hard way. As she walked toward the door, Ryan called out, What am I supposed to do? Just give up on my dreams. Ashley paused, her hand on the door handle. No, Ryan, I want you to wake up from them. And maybe, for the first time in your life, try earning something instead of just taking it. The elevator ride down was a blur. As she walked through the lobby, past the security guard who still barely noticed her, Ashley felt oddly light. The truth was out now, all of it. No more pretending, no more excuses. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Ryan just called me crying. What did you do? Ashley looked at the message for a long moment before typing back. I showed him reality, Mom. Maybe it's time you saw it too. The news spread through the family like wildfire. By Sunday afternoon, Ashley's phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from relatives. She sat in her tiny apartment, watching rain trickle down the windows while her cousin Beth paced back and forth, fuming. "I can't believe Aunt Patricia did this," Beth said, stopping to refill their coffee cups. "Grandma worked so hard for that money. Remember how she put aside a little bit every month, even when times were tough?" Ashley nodded, clutching her grandmother's old photo album. Inside were pictures from every birthday, every Christmas, moments when her grandmother had secretly been building her future, one small deposit at a time. The doorbell rang. It was Uncle David and Aunt Kate carrying grocery bags and concerned expressions. Behind them came Ashley's cousins Tom and Lisa. Within minutes, her small living room was packed with family members, all talking at once. "I brought those trust documents you asked for," Uncle David said, pulling out a worn envelope. "Found them in your grandmother's old files. She kept everything organized, right until the end." Aunt Kate was already in the kitchen, stress baking like she always did during family crises. The smell of chocolate chip cookies filled the apartment as everyone settled in for what would become a family council of war. "Your grandmother told me about this fund," Uncle David continued, spreading papers across Ashley's coffee table. "She started it the day you were born. Said she saw something special in your eyes, a spark of determination." Meanwhile, Tom added bitterly, "Ryan's blown through another chunk of the money. Did you see his social media post yesterday? A new company car for his failing business." Ashley's phone buzzed again. This time it was her mother's sister, Aunt Jenny. "Just heard what happened. Taking your mother's side. Family helps family. Stop being selfish." Selfish. Lisa read the message over Ashley's shoulder and scoffed. "How is it selfish to want back what's legally yours?" The room erupted in overlapping voices. Patricia's lost her mind. Ryan's always been spoiled. But they're still family. Family doesn't steal from family. Quiet. Aunt Kate's voice cut through the chaos. She stood in the kitchen doorway, holding a tray of fresh cookies. "This isn't helping." "Ashley, honey, what do you want to do?" Ashley looked around at her family, the people who'd known her all her life, who'd watched her grow up alongside Ryan. The divide in the room was palpable. Some, like Uncle David and Aunt Kate, were firmly on her side. Others, like Aunt Jenny, thought family loyalty should trump everything else. Ashley's voice cracked slightly. "I want my mother to understand what she did wrong. I want Ryan to face consequences for once in his life. And I want my grandmother's wishes to be respected." Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her mother. "Family meeting at our house tonight. Everyone's coming. We need to fix this." "Fix this?" Beth read the message and rolled her eyes. "Let me guess, she wants you to forgive and forget, like always?" Ashley stood up, suddenly feeling stronger. "No, not this time. If they want a family meeting, fine, but things are going to be different." 2 hours later, Ashley walked into her mother's crowded living room. The family had divided themselves like opposing armies, her supporters on one side, her mother's on the other. Ryan sat in the corner, uncharacteristically quiet. Patricia stood in the center of the room, trying to take control as usual. "We're here to heal our family," she announced, "to find a way forward together." "No, Mom," Ashley interrupted, her voice clear and strong. "We're here because you and Brian need to face what you've done. Not just to me, but to Grandma's memory." She pulled out her grandmother's last letter, the one she'd written just before she died. "I want to read something to everyone. Something Grandma wrote about this money." The room fell silent as Ashley unfolded the letter with trembling hands. "My dearest Ashley, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. But I want you to know why I started this fund for you. I've watched you grow up, always working hard, always doing your best. You remind me so much of myself at your age, determined to make your own way in the world. This money isn't just cash in a bank account. It's 20 years of love, of belief in your future. Every time you got an A on a test, I added a little extra. Every time you helped me in the garden without being asked, every time you stayed late at school to help a struggling classmate, I put more aside. I'm trusting your mother to protect this money until you're ready for it. Use it wisely, my sweet girl. Build the future you dream of. And remember that your old grandma believed in you every single day." Ashley looked up from the letter. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Even Ryan looked shaken. "That's what you gave away, Mom," Ashley said quietly. "Not just money. You gave away Grandma's love, her trust, her belief in me. How do you fix that?" Patricia sank into a chair, her face pale. I never read the letter. I didn't know." "Of course you didn't," Aunt Kate said sharply. "You were too busy trying to save Ryan from his latest failure to think about what you were destroying." The room erupted again, accusations, defenses, old grievances bubbling to the surface. But the law office was quiet except for the gentle hum of air conditioning and the soft ticking of an expensive wall clock. Ashley sat across from Linda Chen, a trust attorney recommended by Uncle David, watching as she reviewed the documents spread across her polished desk. "This is one of the clearest cases I've seen," Linda said, looking up from the papers. "Your grandmother's trust was properly established, with specific conditions and beneficiaries. Your mother's actions as trustee were clearly outside her legal authority." Ashley twisted the tissue in her hands. "What exactly does that mean?" "It means you have an extremely strong case." Linda leaned forward, her expression compassionate but professional. "Your mother violated her fiduciary duty as trustee. The transfer of funds to your brother's business was illegal. We can file suit today if you want." The word suit made Ashley's stomach clench. Through the office window, she could see people going about their normal lives on the street below. How had her life turned into this legal nightmare? "What would happen?" she asked quietly. "To Mom and Ryan, I mean." Linda pulled out a fresh legal pad. "Best case scenario, they agree to a full repayment plan with interest. Worst case, we take them to court. Your mother could face serious consequences for breach of trustee duties. Your brother could be charged with knowing acceptance of misappropriated funds." "You mean criminal charges?" "Potentially." Linda's voice was gentle but firm. "The trust documents are clear. The bank records show deliberate misuse of funds. Your brother's business expenses demonstrate knowing misappropriation." Ashley closed her eyes, remembering Sunday dinners, childhood birthdays, family vacations. Even with all their faults, could she really do this to her family? Her phone buzzed, another message from her mother. "Please call me. We can work this out as a family. Don't let lawyers destroy us." "Many clients struggle with this decision," Linda said, noting Ashley's distress. "But remember, you're not the one who broke the law. You're not the one who betrayed trust." There was a knock at the office door. It was Beth, who had driven Ashley to the appointment. "Hey, how's it going?" Ashley showed her the message from their mother. Beth sat down, her face serious. "You know what happens if you back down, right? They'll never change. Ryan will keep failing upward, and Aunt Patricia will keep enabling him." Linda shuffled through more papers. "Your brother's business records are particularly concerning. The misuse of funds is blatant. Designer furniture, expensive trips, luxury cars, all while the business was failing. He always lands on his feet," Ashley said bitterly. "Someone always bails him out." "Not this time," Beth replied firmly. "This time it's different. This time he stole from you." Linda pulled out a calendar. "We have a limited window to file. The longer we wait, the more complicated it becomes, especially with business assets potentially being liquidated." Ashley stood up and walked to the window. Below, a young woman about her age was looking at real estate listings in a shop window, just like she had been before discovering the theft, before her future was stolen. "If we do this," she said slowly, "what's the first step?" Linda began outlining the process. "First, we file a formal complaint. That triggers an automatic freeze on any remaining business assets. Then we—" She was interrupted by Ashley's phone ringing. It was Ryan. "Should I answer it?" Ashley asked. Beth shrugged. "Put it on speaker. Let's hear what he has to say." Ashley pressed the speaker button. Ryan's voice filled the quiet office. "Sis, are you really meeting with lawyers? Mom's falling apart. You can't do this to us." The familiar guilt trip. The same old manipulation. But this time, something was different. This time, Ashley had proof of their actions, support from family who saw the truth, and a legal expert confirming her rights. "Actually, Ryan, I can," she replied, her voice steady. "And I will. Unless." "Unless what?" His voice was desperate now. "I'll do anything. Just don't file charges. Linda raised an eyebrow, making notes. Beth gave Ashley an encouraging nod. Unless you both take responsibility, Ashley continued. Real responsibility. No more excuses. No more manipulations. No more playing the victim. What do you want? Ryan asked quietly. Ashley looked at Linda, who nodded approvingly. I want a legally binding repayment agreement. I want you to liquidate your fancy office, sell your car, and pay back every penny you took from my fund. I want Mom to step down as trustee of any family accounts, and I want you both to go to family counseling. The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Ryan spoke, and if we agree. Then we handle this as a civil matter, Ashley said. No criminal charges. But Ryan, this is your last chance. Break the agreement and I'll file everything we have. And we have a lot. More silence. Then, can I have 24 hours to talk to Mom? Ashley looked at Linda, who wrote on her notepad, 48 hours maximum. You have until Friday at noon, Ashley replied. After that, we file. After the call ended, Beth hugged her tightly. I'm so proud of you. Linda began gathering the documents. Would you like me to draft the repayment agreement? We can include strict terms, penalties for default, oversight requirements. Ashley nodded, feeling both exhausted and somehow lighter. Yes, make it bulletproof. No loopholes, no escape clauses. As they left the office, Beth asked, do you think they'll actually change? Ashley watched the sun setting over the city skyline. I don't know. But for the first time in our lives, they don't have a choice. This time, there are real consequences. Her phone buzzed one more time. A message from her mother. We'll sign whatever you want. Just please don't give up on us. Ashley showed the message to Beth, who squeezed her hand. You're not giving up on them, Beth said softly. You're finally forcing them to grow up. The walk to the car was quiet, each step feeling like a movement toward a new chapter in their family's story. It wasn't the happy ending Ashley had hoped for, but maybe it was the honest beginning they all needed. 6 months after the legal showdown, Ashley stood in front of a small house with a sold sign in the yard. It wasn't the home she originally planned to buy, but it was hers. The first payment from the settlement had made it possible. Need help with those boxes? Ryan's voice came from behind her. He looked different now, no designer clothes, no flashy watch. He'd taken a regular job at an accounting firm, starting at the bottom like everyone else. Thanks, Ashley said, handing him a box labeled kitchen. The past months hadn't been easy, but small changes were adding up. Ryan had sold everything from his failed business, including his fancy car. Their mother had listed her vacation home for sale. The repayment plan was on track. Inside, Beth and Aunt Kate were arranging furniture while Uncle David installed new light fixtures. The family had come together differently now, not to take sides, but to rebuild. Where do you want Grandma's china cabinet? Beth called from the living room. Ashley walked in, touching the old wood gently. By the window, she always said good china needs natural light. The doorbell rang. It was Patricia, carrying a casserole dish and looking nervous. These days, she always looked a bit nervous around Ashley, like she was walking on eggshells, trying to rebuild trust one small step at a time. I brought lunch for everyone, she said quietly. And I found something while packing up the vacation house. She pulled out an old photo album. Inside were pictures Ashley had never seen. Her grandmother as a young woman, working multiple jobs, saving for her own future. She was just like you, Patricia said, her voice thick with emotion. I should have seen it sooner. The same determination, the same work ethic. She wiped her eyes. The same strength. The family gathered around the dining room table, Ashley's first meal in her new home. The conversation was different now. Ryan talked about his entry-level job, about learning to budget, about understanding the value of earned success. The counseling's actually helping, he admitted, passing the salad bowl, making me see patterns I never noticed before. Patricia nodded. Me too. I enabled a lot of bad behavior. Thought I was helping, but I was just making things worse. Pass the bread, please, Uncle David said, then added, you know, your grandmother would be proud of all of you right now. Ashley looked around her table. The past 6 months had been hard. The weekly family counseling sessions were emotionally draining. The legal meetings were tense. The repayment plan was strict, no missed payments, no excuses. But something had shifted. Ryan was learning responsibility. Patricia was recognizing her mistakes. The family was healing, not by ignoring problems, but by facing them honestly. After lunch, Ashley found her mother in the kitchen, washing dishes. "You don't have to do that, Mom." "I want to," Patricia said, then hesitated. "Ashley, do you think you'll ever fully trust me again?" Ashley leaned against the counter, considering the question. "I don't know. Trust is like grandma's china. Once it's broken, you can glue it back together, but you always see the cracks." Patricia nodded sadly. "But," Ashley continued, "you're trying. Really trying for the first time. That means something." Outside, Ryan was helping Uncle David install a new mailbox. No complaints, no shortcuts, just honest work. Through the window, Ashley could see him actually smiling, not his old fake charm smile, but something genuine. Beth came into the kitchen with more dishes. "The living room's all set up. Want to see?" They walked in together. Grandma's china cabinet stood proud by the window, catching the afternoon light. On top sat the old photo of Ashley and her grandmother in the garden. "You did it," Beth said softly. "You got your future back." "We all did," Ashley replied, "just not the way we expected." That evening, after everyone had left, Ashley sat on her new front porch. The repayment plan would take 3 more years to complete. The family counseling would continue. Trust would rebuild slowly, like a garden growing back after a storm. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. "Thanks for not giving up on us, even when we deserved it." Another message popped up from her mother. "Found more of Grandma's old recipes. Sunday dinner at your place next week." Ashley smiled, looking up at the stars. Somewhere, she felt her grandmother would be proud, not just of the money recovered, but of the lessons learned, the growth achieved, the healing begun. She texted back to both, "See you Sunday." Then she went inside to her own home, bought with restored funds and restored dignity. On the mantel, her grandmother's photo seemed to smile in the evening light. The future wasn't what she originally planned, but maybe it was something better. A future built on truth, responsibility, and real family love. Not just money recovered, but relationships rebuilt. Not just a house bought, but a home created. Not just justice served, but wisdom earned. And that, Ashley realized, was worth more than any trust fund.